When Ninoy suffered a heart attack, Marcos made another concession. He allowed his rival to go to the United States in May 1980 with his family for heart bypass surgery, on condition that Ninoy would promise to be on his best behavior and return to Manila soon after recovery.
Over the next 3 years, Marcos would maneuver back and forth, weighing whether it would be better for Ninoy to remain relatively harmless in the U.S. or to go home to face the music. The protracted political chess match had entered an inconclusive middle game. After enduring 7 years and 7 months in prison, Ninoy could have chosen to spend the rest of his life in peaceful exile with his family in Boston, where he could continue pursuing fellowships at Harvard and MIT. Instead, he purposely violated what he called a pact with the devil to refrain from criticizing the dictatorship. Galvanizing anti-Marcos groups of various persuasions, he spoke before Filipino communities in the States and shared insights with their leaders. In one of his speeches, he proudly declared, "The Filipino is worth dying for."
Ninoy became very, very charismatic, if I might say so, almost an irresistible presence. He understood that he was the single person that was crucial and very strategic in the restoration of democracy.
The early 1980s were critical years for the dictatorship. The token lifting of martial law and the staged re-election of Marcos as president of a new republic in 1981 did little to boost flagging confidence in the now debt-burdened Philippine economy. Meanwhile, mounting hardship among the people swelled the ranks of the new People's Army. And impatient moderates seriously contemplated the use of violence to harass the Marcos regime and to overthrow the dictator. Things came to a head in 1983. Ninoy's vast intelligence network picked up reliable reports that Marcos had a serious illness. The succession picture was murky. Even as chief technocrat, Cesar Virata sat as prime minister under the new setup. He was not perceived to wield real power.
The prime minister is not really a successor to the president. In case of death or incapacity of the president, that I have to manage the government and call for an election. And that was part of what was known then as the Executive Committee, of which I was chairman.
In the event of Marcos' sudden demise, the top position seemed up for grabs among Imelda, Defense Minister Juan Ponce Enrile, and powerful cronies led by Dandingo Huangco, who had become one of Marcos' staunchest allies. The wild card was held by General Fabian Ver, Marcos' cousin and Armed Forces Chief of Staff. Clearly, whoever could command the loyalty of the military would have the inside track.
General Ver's primary talent was that he could be loyal to a regime controller like President Marcos. He is supposed to have been told to jump off a building, and his only question is, from which floor, Mr. President?
By Ninoy's calculations, whoever would succeed Marcos in such a scenario would inherit a nightmare. His or her failure to sort out the mess would force a rightist junta to restore order, provoking a violent reaction from the left and igniting a civil war.
I learned a plan by a certain military group. In the higher echelon, they were planning to put up a junta, and that they will put President as President Imelda Marcos in the event something happened to the President.
Imagine, an economic crisis, military coup, no?
It's all the ingredients of a revolutionary situation.
The old Ninoy would probably have welcomed the prospect of chaos, fully confident that he would emerge the hero riding a white horse in the end. But having steeped himself, while in prison, in the philosophy of nonviolence, which a recent movie about Gandhi refreshed in his mind, he could not allow the Philippines to fall apart in an endless hail of gunfire.
And so he wanted to come back, have an audience with Marcos, and try to persuade him to call for clean and orderly elections. And I was telling him, Ninoy, who are you that Marcos will agree to this? Sabi niya, well, I just have to try, and I have my moral ascendancy.
But he was taking that small aperture of a chance, that small chance, that somehow he might talk to him, that somehow there's going to be a restoration of democracy brought about by peaceful dialogue, that Marcos would settle for being the father of restoring democracy, which he's told.
Ernie Maceda arranged for Ninoy to meet with Imelda Marcos in New York, and Ninoy had asked her to give him a new passport. And Imelda said, oh, sige, bigay mo na yung passport mo, kaya gano'n, or aid was at the time. So Ninoy did. And nothing ever came out of it.
Then, nung nagkita kami ni Ninoy, sabi ko, Ninoy, ang sabi ni Presidente, okay na okay, pwede kang umuwi. Ngunit, sabihin mo sa amin kung kailan ka uwi. You inform the ambassador in New York or in Washington, inform the President, wire me, sapagkat alam ninyo, ang iba dito, ang isip A, ikaw ay CIA, ang iba naman NPA, sino ka ba? Eh siyempre yung NPA nagsiselo sa CIA, ang CIA naman magsiselo sa NPA. Kaya, for your security, you inform us.
Umiiyak pa yung mga tao. Huwag kang uuwi, Ninoy, papatayin ka nila.
The original departure date was August 7th, but then he got a telegram from Enrile, who said that they had uncovered a credible plot against him, and really used the words beyond a reasonable doubt.
I would like to tell you that that did not come from me voluntarily. I was requested by the palace to send that wire. In fact, the text of the wire was a verbatim a reproduction of the wire that was prepared by the palace.
And Ninoy said, and really is a lawyer, and if he uses the words beyond a reasonable doubt, then there's no reason why we can't postpone our trip. So I will postpone it for 2 weeks, but no more.
So what are the immediate implications of that? Number one, maybe there's a real assassination group. Number two, that they're trying to scare me. And if I back out, then they'll come out in their headlines and say, he got scared about the assassins. Number three, if I insist in coming home and I get shot, then they can always say, now look, we told you there was an assassination plot. And you insisted, so don't blame us.
The die was cast. After mapping out a circuitous final journey back to the Philippines, he bid farewell to Cory and their 5 children on August 13, 1983. After diversionary stops at Singapore, Johor, and Hong Kong, Ninoy met with his complete entourage in Taipei. Bringing with him a flock of international reporters, including brother-in-law Ken Kashiwahara for protection, he boarded China Airlines Flight 811, carrying the passport of Marshal Bonifacio.
His feeling was if the journalists were with him, they wouldn't try to harm him.
It was now Sunday, August 21, 1983.
Hours before he was about to land, puro mga hindi mapakali eh. And that was, I would say, close to midnight. I couldn't sleep, so I went down to Mom's room. And then, pala, hindi rin siya makatulog.
Meanwhile, at the Manila International Airport, a crowd of 5,000 gathered to welcome Ninoy along a route festooned with yellow ribbons.
He loved that song kasi pag siya daw na-release na from jail, from Bonifacio, dapat magtatay kami ng yellow ribbon. So, sige.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
One from the lips. Ah!
But there was to be no joyous homecoming. While the welcoming crowd eagerly awaited Ninoy in the periphery, fully armed soldiers were visible all over the airport.
The usapan is at 12:30, Doy Laurel will go to the tube with Tanyada and my mom. That was very, very important. Ninoy was coming in at 1:10. So at 12 o'clock, I already motioned to Doy to start moving. And first door pa lang, hindi siya pinayagan. And doon ako kinabahan.
One time I remember I turned to talk to him, and he was, his head was bowed, he had his rosary beads, and he was saying the rosary for the third time that day.